Gitche Manitou, Chapter 5, Part 1, Silver and Wolfsbane. The next morning, I awoke on my bed, still wearing the red and black dress from prom, the fabric crumpled and clinging to my skin. My head throbbed with confusion and exhaustion. The last thing I remembered was being at the beach, the cool ocean waves lapping at my bare skin as I laughed with my friends under the moonlight. We had left prom early, chasing the thrill of the night, but now here I was, back in my dress, as if nothing had happened. I hadn't slept. I knew that much. My body felt heavy, drained of all energy, yet my mind buzzed with fragments of memories that didn't quite fit together.
Mags.
The voice of my wolf, Luz, echoed faintly in my mind, so distant that I almost didn't catch it.
Mags.
She called again when I didn't respond, but this time from even farther away, like she was slipping from me, fading into the shadows. Panic gripped my heart, squeezing it tight. Luz wasn't real, or at least that's what I told myself. She was a hallucination, a figment of my imagination brought on by exhaustion or whatever chemicals were still lingering in my system from the night before. But the fear coursing through me was real as the tremble in my hands. No, something was wrong. Luz was in trouble, and I felt it deep in my bones, a gnawing dread that wouldn't let go. My hand instinctively reached up to my hair, a nervous habit I developed over the years, but instead of the soft strands, my fingers brushed against something hard and cold. I looked down and saw it, a large silver bracelet wrapped around my wrist, its surface adorned with intricate carvings and a gleaming piece of turquoise embedded in the center. It was beautiful, a piece of art that looked like it belonged in a museum or on the arm of one of the local natives at school. But where had it come from? I had no memory of putting it on, and now that it was there, it refused to budge. I twisted it, but it wouldn't give. The metal was unyielding, as if it had been forged specifically for me and me alone. A surge of panic washed over me. This bracelet wasn't just a piece of jewelry. It felt wrong, like I was enslaved. Somehow I knew it wasn't good for Luz. I rushed to the bathroom, nearly tripping over my own feet in my haste. I grabbed the nearest bottle of lotion, slathering it on my wrist in a desperate attempt to slip the bracelet off, but it was no use. The metal clung to my skin as stubborn as a curse, refusing to let go. I stifled a disappointed grunt of panic. I jumped into the shower, hoping the water and soap would help, but nothing worked. I stood there, letting the warm water cascade over me, trying to piece together the fragments of the night before. But all I could see was his face, blonde hair, blue eyes, a smile that hid something sinister. He had looked rich, with a nice car that I had inexplicably climbed into. His house, his voice. It all started coming back in disjointed flashes, and then the most chilling memory surfaced. He was a vampire. Not just any vampire, but one who had claimed to be my father. Luz had whispered it to me in the darkness, her voice trembling with something I couldn't understand at the time. He wasn't the same creature I had encountered in the park, the one who had sent chills down my spine, but something much worse. He had compelled my friends, used some kind of hypnosis to make them forget. He had lured me into his world with nothing more than a word, and now I was wearing his shackle. Well, I definitely wasn't a bitch to be collared. I felt a surge of anger rise in my chest. What kind of father would do this? What kind of monster would curse his own blood? I had to get this bracelet off and free myself, from whatever spell he had placed on me. But no matter how much I pulled, twisted, or cursed, it stayed firmly in place. There was only one person I could think of who might help. Monks. She was my friend, one of the few people I trusted, and she knew more about silver jewelry than anyone I knew. She owned tons of the stuff. Maybe she could get it off, or at least tell me what it was. I quickly dried myself off and threw on a black concert shirt and jeans, and not caring about the damp strands of hair sticking to my neck, I just needed to get out of the house, away from the silence that felt like it was closing in on me. The house was empty when I made my way downstairs. Carmen and the kids must have gone out, leaving me alone with my racing thoughts. I grabbed a piece of raisin toast, barely tasting it as I shoved it into my mouth and headed out the door. The morning air was still cool, a brief reprieve before the heat of the day set in, and I was grateful for it as I pedaled my bike down the familiar streets. Monks lived on the other side of town, in a small house that always smelled like sage and cedar. Her dad answered the door when I knocked, his eyes bleary with sleep. He let me in without a word, already knowing I was there to see his daughter. Monks was still asleep, her room dark except for the faint glow of string lights wrapped around a white parachute that hung from the ceiling, making her space feel like I had stepped into a cloud. She had told me once that the parachute had belonged to her father, a vet who had brought it back from his time in the service. I had always thought it was cool to have a piece of history with a personal connection. I looked down at the shack on my arm. I wished I had something like that from my parents, but not this cursed bracelet. "Monks, wake up," I called out, letting myself into her room. She stirred under the covers, groaning in protest as I shook her shoulder.
"What?"
she mumbled, clearly not ready to start the day. "I woke up with this fucking bracelet, and I don't know how to take it off," I said, my voice tinged with desperation. I held up my arm, the bracelet gleaming ominously in the dim light. She squinted at it, tilting her head to the side like she was trying to figure out a puzzle.
"It's not mine,"
she finally said, her voice still thick with sleep. "I know it's not yours. I don't know where it came from, but I can't take it off. And I need it off." I was practically pleading now, my hands shaking as I tugged at the unyielding metal. Monks sat up in bed, her expression growing more serious as she took my arm and examined the bracelet. She tried to slip it off herself, but it wouldn't budge.
"You just woke up with it? On you?"
she asked, looking at me with a mix of curiosity and concern. "Yes," I replied, my voice barely above a whisper. I felt so lost, so helpless.
"It's nice at least, and very expensive looking,"
she commented, completely missing the point. "Monks!" I practically yelled, exasperation bubbling over. "Do you know anyone who can take it off?"
"Oh, yeah. Torito makes jewelry. He can probably do it. I'm sure he's got the tools,"
she said, finally understanding the urgency in my voice. "Can we go now? Please," I asked, my heart pounding in my chest.
"We'll have to have my dad drive us. He lives out in the boondocks,"
she said, sliding out of bed and pulling on a pair of shorts. The ride to Torito's house felt like it took an eternity. Monks's dad drove slowly, the kind of careful driving that usually didn't bother me, but today it was unbearable. I was close to tears, the exhaustion weighing me down, but I didn't dare let myself fall asleep. Not with this thing on my wrist. not with the memory of that vampire still fresh in my mind. When we finally arrived, I was practically vibrating with anxiety. Torito's house was in a remote area, surrounded by open fields and a few scattered trees. His dad stayed outside, chatting with an older man while Monks and I headed inside. The air was cool, a stark contrast to the rising heat outside, and for a moment, I felt a flicker of relief. Monks led me to the back where Torito had converted a shed into his workshop. The moment we stepped into his backyard, all hell broke loose. The dogs started barking, a wild, frantic sound that made my skin crawl. One of them peed and ran away, tail between its legs. The chickens and rabbits, normally so calm, scattered in fear, hiding in their coops and hutches as if they had seen a ghost. It was like the entire animal kingdom was reacting to something they sensed in me. I couldn't shake the feeling that the bracelet was more than just a piece of jewelry. It was something darker, something dangerous, and it was affecting everything around me. I needed it off. Now. Torito stepped out from the shed then, his lanky frame moving with a kind of nervous energy that I couldn't quite place. His long, light brown hair was neatly braided, falling over his shoulder as he eyed me cautiously like I was a threat. His reaction sent a fresh wave of unease crawling up my spine. Why was everyone, even this dude, acting like I was dangerous? Just what the hell was going on? For the first time, I started to wonder if maybe there really was something supernatural about me. Maybe I wasn't just imagining things. Maybe I was part werewolf or part vampire or whatever strange hybrid my so-called mate claimed me to be. Or maybe the whole world, including myself, was just going crazy.
Val?
Torito called, his voice stern but calm.
Can you wait for us in the house for a second?
Monks raised an eyebrow, casting a quick glance between me and Torito. For a moment, I thought she might refuse, sensing something off. Then she smirked.
Why, you want to be alone with my friend here, huh? She's got a boyfriend?
She teased, nudging me playfully. I stared at her, my brain still reeling, wondering if she knew about this mate nonsense that my wolf Luz kept mentioning. I shot her a questioning look, not really in the mood for her jokes.
Aren't you and Ray Ray together?
She asked with a sly grin, her green eyes twinkling with mischief. Monks had that natural beauty that came with her mixed heritage. Like me, she was a blend of cultures, though her striking green eyes set her apart. It was easy to see why people gravitated towards her. Her mouth, though, was another thing. She usually made the boys cry. Ugh, no, he was never my boyfriend, I muttered, rolling my eyes. It's fine. I just need to get this thing off. She gave me a cheeky smile, tossing back a wick of her hair. As she sauntered toward the house, leaving me alone with Torito. I followed him into the shed, and the moment we were inside, the air felt different, heavier. Clutter filled the space. Tools and containers of silver and other metals were strewn about, with stones of all shapes and sizes scattered across the workbench. It was cramped, and Torito's nervous energy only made it worse. He sat across from me, and I tried to stay alert, but exhaustion was creeping back in, thick and relentless. My eyelids fluttered shut for a moment before I snapped them open, catching him watching me, assessing. He was handsome, slightly older than me, but I wasn't here for a social call. I am single, but I'm also not looking, I said, my voice sharper than I intended. I wasn't here for any kind of weird vibe. Can you get this thing off or not? I asked impatiently. He jumped up, shuffling around in the shed as he moved boxes and metal containers outside away from us.
Just 1 minute.
He said.
Let me, make some room.
When he sat back down, his eyes seemed more focused and less jittery. The weird tension in the air had eased, but I was still tired, exhausted really. I missed Luce, her voice, her strength. I wanted to hear her reassuring me that everything would be all right. It was hard to believe that not that long ago I would have done anything to keep her quiet.
Unbelievable.
He muttered, almost to himself. I stared at him, confused. Feeling a little more energetic, I sat up in the chair.
You're just like my aunt.
He said, his voice softening.
She used to send the animals scurrying too. She's been missing for a long time now. When I heard the dogs barking, I thought for a second that you were her. Sorry if I spooked you.
What? I gasped, trying to process what he was saying. His aunt had been like me? No, I'm sorry, I said quickly, unsure of what else to say. I hope you find her soon. He shrugged, his expression distant, as if remembering someone long gone.
Well, she wasn't blood related, but she was my aunt, in every way that mattered.
He paused.
She had the same reaction to silver, and other sacred stones too. I didn't think there was anyone else like her around here. She was from New Mexico.
My heart skipped a beat. New Mexico. My mother was from there too, but I didn't say anything. Could his aunt be connected to me in some way? Was? I asked quietly, dreading the answer.
It was too long ago.
He said, his voice hollow.
We had her declared dead after 10 years.
His words hung in the air, heavy with loss. I felt a pang of sadness for him, even though I didn't know what it was like to lose someone close. I'd never had anyone to lose, but imagining what it would feel like made my chest ache. I'm sorry, I whispered.
It's okay.
He said, though his voice said otherwise.
Let's get this thing off of you.
He leaned forward to inspect the bracelet, his fingers running over the intricate designs.
This isn't the kind of bracelet that's usually made to be worn like this. It should have slipped off, but it doesn't look like it was designed to come off easily.
I watched as Torito continued to examine the bracelet. He wore silver too, small turquoise earrings and a delicate necklace with a bird charm. Even though he had removed most of the silver from the shed, those pieces remained.
So, you just woke up with this on?
He asked, glancing up at me. Yeah, I replied, keeping my voice casual. I went to prom, then to the beach with my friends. I can't remember much after that. I don't even remember getting home. Maybe I drank too much? I lied, not ready to spill the truth about my vampire father or the compulsion that had stolen my friend's memories. Torito frowned.
That's strange. Whoever put this on, you really didn't want it to come off. Maybe they also know about your allergy and wanted to harm you?
He turned the bracelet over in his hands. His words made me panic even more inside. Why would my dad want to hurt Luz? He said he was happy to meet my new friend.
It's not pure silver. The outside facing away from your skin is, but the inside, the part touching your skin, is steel. If it were pure silver, I could try to flatten it and bend it open, but the steel makes that harder. Silver's a soft metal, but steel is...
He attempted to squeeze the bracelet with his fingers, but it didn't budge.
A bitch.
He exclaimed.
They were either very strong or used a special machine to close this around your wrist.
He said with a soft laugh.
I don't have either. Won't be able to remove it without injuring it somehow.
Just cut it off then. I snapped, my patience wearing thin. I don't care. He hesitated.
Are you sure? It's beautiful and looks really expensive. Handmade, for sure.
Yes, I said, my voice firm. I think you're right. I probably have your aunt's allergy to silver. Just get it off. I feel like crap. Torito nodded, then pulled out a small soldering device. He carefully placed a piece of leather over my wrist, followed by a flat piece of wood between my skin and the bracelet to protect me from the heat. As the saw began to hum, small sparks flew around us, and I found myself staring at his necklace, the bird charm catching the light. It wasn't an owl, but the image reminded me of the large white owl I had seen at the bonfire. I couldn't shake the feeling that the owl was important. Have you ever seen large owls around here? I asked casually, trying to make conversation. Torito stopped mid-cut, his eyes narrowing.
What kind of owl?
He asked, his tone suddenly serious. A white one. Like a barn owl, I replied. He stared at me for a long moment, then abruptly stood up.
I'll be right back,
he said, his face a mask of uncertainty as he disappeared out the door. Ugh, now, where is he going? When Torito returned, he carried something in his hands that immediately caught my attention. A Kachina doll, intricately carved from wood. The figure depicted was of a barn owl man with real leather wrapped around it like ceremonial garments and genuine feathers attached to its arms. The face was unmistakably that of a barn owl, but the legs were human, standing in a posture that exuded both power and grace, like he was mid-pose in a dance.
It's a Kachina,
he said. Yes, I have heard of these. Val's dad has some in his house too. Torito nodded. I blinked, taking in the doll's eerie beauty, but quickly reminded myself why I was there. Well, I mean a real owl, just larger than usual, flying in the sky. I saw one the other night above me, I said, choosing to keep any mention of the supernatural out of the conversation. Torito laughed, a sound that didn't quite reach his eyes.
Well, either you saw La Lechuza or... Wait, what kind of native are you?
He asked, his tone suddenly serious. How do you know I'm native? I countered, my brows furrowing. No one can usually guess what I am because of my mixed features. And who is La Lechuza? He shrugged, a casual gesture that did little to hide his curiosity.
Everyone around here has at least some native blood, it seems. And I was just joking about La Lechuza. She's an old legend.
He explained, though there was a hint of something more in his voice. Well, I'm mixed, but I don't know much. My mother died a long time ago. She was from New Mexico, like your aunt. That's all I know. Torito nodded, his eyes flickering with something I couldn't quite place. He smiled at the floor, his hands resting on his thighs as if he was about to stand, but hesitated.
So, you don't know any of the legends or stories?
He asked, still looking down, as if avoiding my gaze would make the question sound less intruding. Owls? Nope, I replied, hoping this wouldn't turn into one of those annoying I'm more native than you conversations, which was odd because he was too light-skinned to be saying any of that either. Thankfully, it didn't progress to that. I didn't want to dive into my past as a foster kid. It always shifted people's perceptions, turning me into someone they pitied. I hated that. But Torito was kind enough not to pry.
In my tribe,
He began, finally meeting my eyes again.
owls can either be good or bad messengers. Usually a white owl is good, but only you can answer that. If the owl spirit is protecting or guiding you, then maybe you should keep this,
he said, gesturing to the Kachina doll he had placed beside me. Oh, no, I couldn't, I protested, realizing I didn't have any money to offer him, not for the doll or the work on the bracelet.
No, you keep it, and it's yours. My dad makes them. He has a whole bunch. Maybe it will pique your interest, and you'll start learning about your people and where you come from.
He suggested. I nodded, appreciating the sentiment, though my mind was spinning with thoughts of my uncertain future, my possible supernatural lineage, and the danger lurking in the form of a vampire father and a werewolf spirit. Torito turned his attention back to my bracelet, chiseling away at it for a few more minutes, effectively ending the conversation. The Kachina doll now belonged to me, a beautiful yet haunting artifact that I wasn't sure how to feel about. Maybe I'd place it in my room as decor, a silent sentinel watching over me. Is this a god of some sort? I asked quietly.
Number.
He laughed.
Not a god, but a type of spirit, I guess. You can compare them to angels, but I don't pray to them. The spirits are messengers to the Creator and can bestow blessings. Some say an owl, just like this, roams these parts, and if you see it, then it probably means he is your guardian.
He said nonchalantly.
They are neat, though, aren't they?
Very neat, I said with a smile, looking over at my new gift. Thank you. I wasn't used to receiving gifts from guys, and it felt nice. And why would I need a guardian? I asked.
Every one of the people has a guardian, and everyone needs one or two.
He shrugged. He smiled at me. The little saw whirred to a stop, and I looked down at my wrist just in time to see Torito finally prying the bracelet apart with a pair of strong pliers. It worked. The shackle was off, and I felt a wave of relief so intense that I couldn't help but giggle, a sound that surprised both of us. Torito looked at me with that strange expression again. I'm sorry, I don't have any way to pay you just yet, I said, still clutching my wrist. I didn't even know how to get cash from a credit card, but I was slowly cursing myself for forgetting to bring cash. My skin felt cold, almost numb where the metal had rested.
Don't worry about it, unless
He hesitated.
I can keep this. I can repair it for you, and then you can sell it if you need the money. It's very expensive silver, and the turquoise is very pure as well. You can give me however much you want out of it after you sell it.
The idea that the bracelet might be worth something had never crossed my mind. All I had cared about was getting it off. Now, holding the cool, smooth silver in my hand, I felt a strange connection to it, a sense that there was more to this bracelet than I understood. It had scared me when it warmed to my touch, but something deep inside urged me not to let it go. Let me hold on to it, I said quickly. I have some babysitting I can do, then I'll pay you. I need to find out where it came from.
Smart.
Torito replied, slipping the bracelet into a small pouch and handing it to me. I stuffed it into my pocket. As I turned to leave, a painting on the wall caught my eye. A bird with wings spread wide, almost identical to the one on Torito's necklace.
It's a thunderbird.
Torito explained, noticing my interest.
Have you seen one of those as well?
He asked, his tone half joking, but with a hint of curiosity. I don't think so, I replied with a scoff, though the idea intrigued me.
Well, ask Monks.
He said with a laugh.
She swears she's seen one.
I'll make sure to do that, I said, smiling at the thought. It would be fun to tease her about it later.
Hey, you should come to one of our powwows one day. I can introduce you to the elders and see if they can find out what tribe your mother was from.
Really? They can do that? I asked, surprised and a bit hopeful.
They would have records, or they can ask around certain families.
He said, scribbling his number on a piece of paper from his cluttered desk. I slipped it into my other pocket, the one not weighed down by the bracelet.
There were a lot of our kind who got dispersed during the colonization of this land. The records are mainly census records of the names of people who lived on the reservations. You should definitely have a look through it.
He suggested. I wanted to tell him about my case manager and my involvement with the Board of Indian Affairs, but it felt like too much to share right then. Sure, I replied, though I hesitated. I can't give you my home number, though. We don't have one. It was a lie, but the truth was worse. My foster mom never let me use the phone. I didn't want to risk her wrath by having people call the house.
It's okay. Just call me from Val's and I'll give you the details about the POW WOW. It's not for another month anyway.
A sudden pounding on the door interrupted us. It was Monk's.
Are you guys making out in there or what?
She called out, her voice dripping with playful sarcasm. Torito and I both laughed as he opened the door for me. Monks stood there, tapping her little black rabbit moccasins on the cement porch, her arms crossed with mock impatience. She was the friend who had given me my own pair of moccasins, a gesture that had meant more to me than she knew. "It's off," I exclaimed, holding up my now bare wrist with a grin. The dogs and other animals were still hiding from me, but Monks didn't seem to notice.
Well, it's getting hot. Let's go,
she said, leading the way back to the car.
Goodbye, cousin.
Torito called after me as I followed Monks back into the house. I turned back to look at him, surprised by the term of endearment. Cousin? Okay, I could live with that. I smiled and waved goodbye. As we drove back, I felt a strange sense of happiness and contentment wash over me. Luce hadn't spoken to me yet, but I could feel her presence, like she was slowly waking up, stretching her limbs after a long sleep. The rest of the morning passed in a blur of contentment. Monks and I sat in her room, listening to her favorite Metallica album, Ride the Lightning. As the heavy riffs filled the space around us, I leaned in closer, my curiosity piqued about what Torito had said. Monks, tell me about the time you saw the Thunderbird, I asked, trying to sound casual but failing to hide my intrigue.
Who told you that?
She exclaimed, her eyes widening in mock surprise.
Oh, it must have been Torito. He's so annoying sometimes. I told him not to tell anyone.
Monks chuckled, shaking her head as she recalled the memory.
Well, I saw something. But a true Thunderbird, I'm not sure. A Thunderbird is a sacred creature in native legends, known for great power. They say they can make it rain and cause thunder and lightning with the beat of its wings. I never thought it was a true Thunderbird. It didn't have any feathers. The beak of this animal and the pictures of Thunderbirds were very similar, though.
She paused to flip the cassette tape over to the next half of the album. I sat there on the floor, leaning against her bed, petting my new Kachina doll.
I was out in the canyons with my dad. We were riding our three-wheelers, just enjoying the desert, when this massive bird came out of nowhere. It soared up from the canyon, its wings spreading wide, leaving a big shadow over us. It was huge, like nothing I'd ever seen before.
My eyes widened even more. What did it look like?
Well,
Monks hesitated.
It didn't really look like a traditional Thunderbird, like I said. Its wings were leathery, more like a bat's, but still very colorful. Orange, yellow, blue, and green skin that changed like a lizard. The shadow flew over us and we stopped riding just to stare at it. Its body was strong but sleek. Honestly, it looked more like a giant pterodactyl, but it was so majestic I couldn't think of anything else to call it. The air seemed to hum with electricity like a storm was brewing from its presence, but there was no thunder or lightning, ironically.
That's incredible, I exclaimed. Do you think it could really have been a pterodactyl? I have heard some people claim to still see them. Monks shrugged.
Who knows? This desert is full of mysteries.
Speaking of mysteries, I said, a smirk playing on my lips. Who is Lalachusa. Monks frowned, shaking her head.
What's with all these questions?
I don't know. Torito told me I should look into my native stories. I answered.
I've heard of the name, but I'm not sure. You might want to look it up at the library. The internet's got all sorts of info on folklore and legends.
The internet? Like AOL? I giggled.
Well, it's what I hear anyway, and then let me know what you get.
She giggled back. I nodded, a determined look in my eyes. I'll do that. Thanks, monks. As the music played on, I sat there, my mind swirling with thoughts of owls, thunderbirds, and the strange and mysterious world I was just beginning to uncover. It felt like the start of something big, something that would change everything. Kind of felt like I was gonna go on an adventure. Before heading home, I decided to stop at the town's one and only library. It was a small city and the library was a modest building, but to me it was a sanctuary. I was grateful prom had been on a Friday, giving me the entire weekend to investigate without worrying about school. The library was one of my favorite places. Not only was it air-conditioned, a precious reprieve from the relentless desert heat, but it was also free. The computers here were a lifeline in a town where personal computers were a luxury few could afford. These days, if you wanted to know anything, you either needed a complete set of Britannica encyclopedias at home or a library card. When I was younger, one of my former foster moms would drag me and 4 other foster kids to this very library, a sack lunch of bologna sandwiches in tow. During the long summer months when school was out, she would drop us off in the morning and leave us there all day. It wasn't the best situation, but I made the most of it, devouring book after book. It was here that I discovered my love for storytelling and writing. I used to scribble down short stories and give them to friends as gifts, little tokens of my imagination. I also learned how to use the microfilm machine, spending hours poring over old newspaper clippings, searching for any mention of my mother. Her name was Ayana, and all I knew was that she had lived on a reservation in New Mexico before she passed away. I found her name on a census once, but it was handwritten, and I could not read her last name. After that, it was as if she had vanished. Perhaps her family had moved off the reservation or changed their name. The trail had gone cold, but I never gave up hope. This time, I had several things to research. I wanted to find out more about my father, a man I had never known. My case manager had mentioned that he was of European descent, but that was all I knew. The vampire from last night had called himself Sebastian, and I couldn't shake the possibility that he might actually be my father. I also planned to look up Lalachusa and Thunderbirds, curious to see if I could find any information that might explain the giant owl I had seen flying above me. I spent the entire day at the library, then returned the next day as well. 2 days passed, and I found nothing about my father. Searching for someone based on a single name was frustrating, but I had hoped that cross-referencing his name with my mother's might yield something. A marriage record, a car title, anything. But there was nothing. Feeling disheartened, I decided to satisfy my curiosity about Lalachusa. The stories I found were chilling. It was an old urban legend that had many variations, but the gist was the same. Lalachusa was a woman who lived alone near a small town in Texas. She was accused of witchcraft after a baby mysteriously died, and the townspeople burned her alive one night. But before she died, a large white owl appeared in the sky above her, and she cursed the townspeople, vowing to return as an owl and exact her revenge. I shivered as I read the story, the vivid descriptions of her death and the vengeance she sought from beyond the grave, sending chills down my spine. Could the owl I saw have been La Lechuza? I wasn't easily convinced, even if my life had taken a supernatural turn recently. Just because some things were real didn't mean every rumor or legend had truth to it.
Good thing we don't live in Texas.
Luz said in my mind, her voice laced with humor. And yes, Luz had returned, and strangely, I welcomed it. I scoffed. This story says she lived in Texas when she was human, I replied. Doesn't mean she stayed there after dying. Real or not, the story was fascinating. According to the legends, sightings of La Lechuza had been reported from Texas all the way to Southern California, where I lived. The tales were meant to scare people, keep children from wandering too far, and prevent them from petting strange animals that might be rabid. She was like the Mexican equivalent of Bigfoot or the chupacabra, a cautionary figure used to instill fear, I told myself.
Yeah, just like werewolves and vampires. They aren't real either, right?
Luce replied sarcastically. Touché, I muttered. The stories painted her as a monster, a witch who cannibalized people, mostly men who treated women badly. The avenging woman angle didn't bother me as much as it probably should have. If anything, I found myself oddly sympathetic to her plight, but something inside me told me that the owl I saw wasn't La Lechuza. It didn't feel right. Besides, the owl I had seen was so white, and according to what I had read, male owls were whiter than the females, who had more brown in their feathers. I thought of the Kachina doll Torito had given me, and his words about the owl spirit protecting me. It felt better to believe that the owl was a guardian rather than a vengeful witch. A strange sensation crept over me as I looked away from the microfilm machine. I glanced around the room, but it was quiet. The library was nearly empty, with only a few patrons scattered among the shelves. I sensed something, or someone watching me, and the hair on my arms raised up. I turned toward the window on my right, and that's when I saw him. Not the vampire, but the man from the park, the one I had given up hope of ever seeing again. My heart skipped a beat as our eyes met, and in that instant, everything else faded away.
Follow and sub and help me bring more content to you.